more money over the course of your lifetime at a 9-to-5 fast food job than you will which on the street, no matter how big bucks you get at a certain time when you stretch it out.
Bro, I have family members that have spent much time upstate because they call themselves, you know, dealers. And like I said to my cousin, I said, "You the brokest drug dealer I know." You know, when you sit back and you think about all the time you spend out there, like I see some of these kids out on the corner, right? And when you think about all the time you're gonna spend out there, right? And the little money that you make at the end of it, and then the likelihood of you going to jail after that, what have you really made? You know, you could go and work for Burger King or something like that and probably make more money, or any minimum wage job and still make more in less amount of time. But they choose that because a lot of times people don't want to, you know, I guess succumb to authority or
the quickness.
That quick dollar.
The quick dollar, and it takes a certain discipline to do a 9-to-5.
Yeah, for sure. My name's Alonzo Adams, from Plainfield, New Jersey. Moved here when I was 5 years old back in 1966. I've been an artist for all my life. Back when I was in the 5th grade is when I decided that I wanted to be an artist. You know, because my mother passed away like a little over 3 years ago. She went to the hospital for a simple back operation and never came out. She was in a coma for 2 months, and that's who was me. That was my heart and soul. I mean, that was my biggest cheerleader, that person who kicked me in the ass when I needed it. Like, you know.
All of us.
Yeah, my mother. I mean, my mother was the neighborhood mother. You know, she was one of those women that you read about, like, you know. You remember Rajiv and Gerard that lived right down the street? Gerard was he was HIV positive, you know, and he had gotten, you know, somebody said something, they had done something in the neighborhood, and when everyone had given up on him, she took him in, you know, and was a mother to him and his little brother. They were guys when my mother passed away. I remember sitting out on the steps, and this dude came. He was a drug dealer. He said, "Yo, man, I heard about your mom." He's like, "I ain't gonna lie. There were days when I was mad at her for running me off the block and this and that." He said, "But you had a good mother, man. I wish if I had a mother like you, I wouldn't be on the block. I wouldn't have been on the block." You know what I'm saying? And so I found myself lately doing like paintings of strong women, and I was like, why? But it was, you know, basically paying homage to her. I've always been reminded by the person that was most important to me in life, my mother, is always stay hungry, you know, and stay on. Basically, she didn't say this, but she said stay on. She didn't say stay on your grind, but that's the way I took it as. And a lot of times when other people were out hanging and partying, and at that age where that was what was most important to you, what was most important to me, which was my lifeblood, my oxygen, whatever, was to paint. I've always wanted to be the best at whatever I did. I wanted to be the Michael Jordan of the art world, you know. Well, these little young people say LeBron James, but I say the Michael Jordan of the art world, you know. I've always wanted to be the best that did it, and I'm glad that I chose art, and I like giving back to the world. I want for years to come people to be able to walk into museums and see my work, and believe it or not, I want them to know that I was from Plainfield, New Jersey. This was a sketch of that leading up to, you know, when you talk about the journey, like that's part of the journey. You know, I mean, even though it's taking complete different form, but that's where, if you look at this one, like you can see the little lines here and there, those same lines in here, but then I decided to go someplace different with it, with the children in the background. You know, and I haven't decided what I'm gonna title it yet. I haven't even decided if I'm finished with it yet.
I had the sketch.
The best thing I can tell people, young people, older people, is stay on your grind and be content with whatever your inspiration is, whatever your lifeblood is, and to, I guess how you say it, let your lifeblood flow through whatever it may be. My mother always said to me, whatever you decide to do in life, be the best at it that you can be, okay? I tell my children, I tell children when I go out and speak out there, if you're thinking about it, somebody else is thinking about it. So you want to be the best at whatever it is that you do, and try to be first at doing it, okay? And if you're not first, try to take a blueprint from what they've done and make it better.
I teach film at NYU, actually, in the
program.
I teach directing. So one of the things that most young filmmakers are clueless about is you know, art, photography, anything, right. And I make them study and go to exhibitions. Because, you know, I let them. I try to have them value every frame.
Okay, all right.
Every frame as its own piece of art.
Okay.
That's how I build it, and then you know that one frame turns into 24
right,
frames.
Right.
So every shot in their film has to be beautiful, meaningful, poignant, and so I mean just these images already. You know, if I could show these to my students, their skill sets would be elevated.
Okay.
I mean, so it's very impressive, and I'm glad that my film teachers, I didn't know anything about you know, art in that context, that they made me go to exhibits and they made me start taking them and stuff. So it's beautiful, man.
Okay. Beautiful. I love your, like, put it this way, like Wynton Marsau's a friend of mine, right? When I sit there and watch him play that horn, and I'm like, damn, you know, people who do cinematography, films, this and that, I look at something like, wow, how did, you know, like one of my favorite movies is Gladiator, you know, and I look at the cinematography in Gladiator, and I'm like, wow, it's amazing, and just to have that kind of creativity and
art inspires
everything.
Art.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
It really does.
For sure.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
That Gladiator thing. Because,
yeah, man.
because no, actually, my manager, this project I'm doing because I love Plainfield and I want, you know, the kids to have this positive thing. But one of my the dream project I have is a tale like that set in West Africa. Okay. And West Africa, North Africa, Mediterranean, Cyprus, this epic thing. But but I reference Gladiator every time I present that visually and all that. So I mean, and when I saw this, honestly, I was thinking of one of my characters in that thing. Really? Absolutely. I'm not kidding you. Because this looks like the mother of one of the main actors. Maybe you know what? So we're gonna talk.
Well, my full belief, bro, is that there's no coincidence in life. There's no coincidence that I've known Lucy for God knows how many years, Lamar, and you, and then a lot of people don't understand this. I love Plainfield. I've been here. I was born in Harlem, but my mother moved here when I was 5 years old, and I've been here, and I've watched the transition over the years of Plainfield. From when we had Bambergers downtown, we had Teppers, Tiny Tots, Myrons, Dryers. I mean, Plainfield was like going into Westfield, and we had it right downtown, and it was so beautiful. My wife and I opened the art gallery here in Plainfield. Okay.
When I travel the world and I say I'm from Plainfield, they mention your name in your gallery.
But you know what? The part that broke my heart the most was when we had to shut it down. Because Plainfield, there was such a stigma attached to Plainfield. Okay, if I had opened up in Westfield or someplace else, it would have thrived, right? But it became a destination place. You know what I mean? And it broke my heart because I opened it for Plainfield because I wanted to do something that put Plainfield on the map. I could have opened it in all the more wealthier towns around. But we want to do it in Plainfield to give something back. But like when I go around and talk to these kids in schools and whatnot, I grew up right on these same streets, you know. But I knew from when I was a child, since I was in the 5th grade. 5th grade is when you learn about, like, oh, big words. I want to be an engineer, a pediatrician, this, that. If you look at my 5th grade yearbook, it says, I want to be an artist. That's all I've ever wanted to do. And when I look at like out on the streets and whatnot, that's where when people say, where does your inspiration come? It comes from the streets. You know what I'm saying? And you talk about hustling, okay? My hustle began when my friends were out hanging out in the clubs. You know, I'm in my studio painting. My mother's studio, my mother's house, right? Our basement. If I walked into it and there was a naked light bulb and I didn't remember where that light bulb was, I'd hit my head against it and break it. I broke it a few times, like ran right up, like damn, that's how small that space was. And where I painted was, what, maybe 9 feet by 9 feet? But some of the greatest pieces that I did came out of that little space. And I talk about my mother a lot because, you know, like I said, she was my inspiration. And, you know, I well up sometimes when I think about it. You know, she would always say to me, you got to put your heart and soul in everything you do. I was fortunate enough that, you know, I'm a firm believer that luck is when opportunity and preparation collide. Okay? I used to work at this place called Tops. And when I tell you, I hated that place. It was like going to a slave ship. I came home one day and I did an iron day, which is 12 hours on the sales floor, right? And I came home and I got into a big argument with my manager. And I came home and I'm so mad that I'm just tears are running out of my eyes. I'm in a full suit, grown man, sitting on the side of my bed because I had just helped my mother buy a house. And I knew I couldn't quit the job because we just bought this house, right? And I'm sitting there crying, right? Tears running down my eyes, you know? And all of a sudden my mother walks by my bedroom, right? And she goes, looks in, you know, I wanted to come in and say, are you all right? This and that. She didn't do that. She wasn't built like that. She looked in the room, walked by, came back. About 5 minutes later, I'm still sitting there blowing steam. She goes, what's wrong with you? I said, oh, Pete, da-da-da-da. She said, you know what she said to me? She said, you know something? I didn't work 12 years. Sometimes 16 hours a day, 2 jobs to put you through college, to have you here crying over a job. If you don't like the job, quit. If you can't quit, put in your mind what you want to do. And there's an old saying she always said, root, pick, or die. It's one of those southern sayings. And I never understood, because she said to me, you root, pick, or die. And I'm like, root, pick, or die? What in the world is that? And it didn't come to me until years later what root, pick, or die meant. It meant you can plant something and let it take root, okay, for later. You could pick it right now and deal with it, or you could just die, right? So she said to me, you have too much talent to be sitting around, you know, crying over a job. Put in your mind how much money you want to save so you can go ahead and start your career. When she said that to me, bucked up, stopped crying, manned up rather. And all of a sudden, I looked up one day and I get a call, a lady at the store. I helped her out. She calls me up. There was an article written on me, the first article that was ever written on me. And she says to me, I showed your article to someone. They want to see some of your work. I had no clue who this person was. She had showed that article to Bill Cosby. Okay? All of a sudden, he calls me the next day, buys a painting over the phone. I take it to him, my whole life changed. That place that I hated so much, okay, so much, changed my life because of just being nice to somebody. And I always tell people, when, you know, tell kids and everything, even my sons right now, you got to make decisions in life. You got to make good choices. I always tell them to be thinking men, you know. And so, like, when I think about, like, you know, choose your hustle, you got to get out there and choose what you want to do early on, and you got to hustle hard at it. When I was growing up, hustle meant hustle. Come on, hustle. Get on. You know, I'm on the football field, on the basketball court. Come on, hustle, 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 hustle. You know, and the young kids today, you know, hustle means hustle. You know, you got to get your hustle on. You got to do that. But you know, to me, everything changes but stays the same. You know, hustle still means get on your grind. You know, get on your grind. And if you're thinking about it, know this: somebody else is out there thinking about it. So you can either be the hunter or the hunted. You know what I'm saying? You gotta. Every idea that you think you have, and it's the only idea, and you think you're the only person thinking about it, there's somebody else out there thinking about it. There's somebody out there. I got this piece coming out called Pieces of a Dream. Okay? Not gonna say what it is or anything like that. But when I tell you it's gonna come out and it's gonna shape things like wow. You know, but there's somebody else out there thinking about that same piece.
Absolutely.
And if I'm not hustling to get it done, they're gonna be first. They're gonna be first. You know what I'm saying? And that's, you know, that's you gotta stay on the ground. There's times when I first started this, it was like and I still love it, don't get me wrong, I still love what I do. But when it became a job, it put a whole nother perspective on it. I was like, wow, you know, I gotta pay mortgage, I got tuition, I got food. Thank God I got a great wife that has a great job too. But you know what I'm saying? But I gotta stay on my grind. I gotta stay on my hustle to add to it.
But but the thing I wanted to say to you though, you said something very important. You knew in the 5th grade what you wanted to do.
Right.
How does that translate? Because first, people look at me and they're like, "You're lucky that you found your calling and you're doing what you love." But this isn't easy,
right?
You know, you know. Clearly, you had a mom, but what makes you stick with it? What makes you stick with that grind? What is the thing?
You know what? It's my oxygen. It really is my oxygen. Because don't get me wrong, with the economy been the way it's been, there's days when I'm like, you know, you sit up here and you're painting, and I mean, you could look around and see pieces that I've done that I haven't even shown yet, you know, and you go to a show, and you know you're putting out great work, but nobody's buying, okay? I'm gonna tell you a story, this is a true story. Dr. Angelo's a friend of mine, Dr. Maya Angelou, right? I'm at her dinner table, okay? And when I tell you a phenomenal cook, bruh, who? But I'm sitting at a dinner table with her, and she's there with the director of Harlem Hospital. And it's funny that he's the man who invented the defibrillator. And I got to get a defibrillator put in because I got a heart disease called, a disease called sarcoidosis. Same thing that Bernie Mac passed away from. Is what it is the tissue. Well, the tissue is inflammation of the tissue. Mine happens to be in my heart and my lungs, and I have erratic heartbeat also. And I've had it since I was a child. But being that I have both now, like my cardiologist said to me, you could have sudden death. Even though, like I'm asymptomatic. I could be sitting here talking to you right now, and my heart could start beating fast for no reason. But it's funny. Like I said, there's no coincidences in life. I met the man who created the defibrillator, who was over Harlem Hospital. But what I wanted to say is, I was sitting there with Dr. Angelou, right? And this is many, many years ago. And I said to her, Dr. Angelou, I'm trying to find my artistic voice. And she goes like this. She goes, young Master Adams. She says, you got to go out into the world, okay? And soak it up. Soak it up all around you. And bring it back to your studio and squeeze it out like a sponge. And I was like, sitting there like, and you know, in her very eloquent way and whatnot. And all she was saying was, go out there and paint what's around you. You know, and what inspires you. Because just like in film and all kinds of arts, there's gimmicks. And there's a whole lot of gimmicky artists. I've gone to shows and knowing I had the best work in the show, but you know, people stay hot for a minute, you know, and that minute may be the time that you're hoping for to sell work. You know, they may be a spark, but I want to be a flame. I want to produce work that stands the test of time and whatnot. And by her telling me that day, you know, it's with me today, because there's days I'm up in the studio. And I'm like, I'm creating, you know, what I think are, because I want to be in museums. You know, I want people to be able. I want my grandchildren's grandchildren to walk into a museum and say, "That's Alonzo Adams." You know, my blood. I mean, his blood flows through my veins. You know, of course, there's politics and everything that you do and whatnot, and I don't know if I'll ever get there. But all I could do is keep hustling and keep grinding to try to get there. You know, and keep creating great work. You know, and maybe you know, the forces that be will say, okay, you're worthy to be me. I said to my mother one day, I sat there right over on 2nd Street, okay? Sat there in her little den, and I said to her, I said, Mom, you think I got all my blessings that I'm meant to get in life? And she said, because, you know, like I said, that was around the time we closed the gallery and everything, and I was having my own little pity party. And she's like, baby, you just keep putting your heart and soul into your work. And she said, you're too good of a person and too talented to think that God is giving you all the blessings that you were meant to get. And just like everybody in life, you know, I get knocked down, you know, and but what I've decided to do in life, I believe in it, and I believe in staying hungry and staying true to what God put me here for, which is to paint and to give back to the world. That's all I want to say about that.